Newcastle Live.
You're headed down here to play the Live at the Foreshore Festival on November 1. Mate, your good friend Eddie Vedder loves to surf around here. You going to be doing any surfing when you come down?
I don't know. You never know, it just depends on, I don't know if you're a surfer, but it's a pretty fickle sport, you never know what you're going to get. I mean, if it's really going off, I'll have a crack at it.
Perfect. And tell me, I wanted to ask you, what's backstage at a festival like this? Surely you've spent time with these people before. Is it a bit of a party atmosphere, or you're there, to lay down the work and get it done?
Oh, it depends, really. Most of the time it's work.
Yeah, right.
Everyone gets designated a little tent, and you sort of go in there. You're right, sort of mid-afternoon, and you have a sniff around, see where your name is on the wall. Wander in there and make yourself at home, really. And then if there's people around, I'm pretty social, so I sort of go for a bit of a wander.
Yeah, cool. And tell me, given the nature of the festival and sort of the retrospective lineup, are we going to get a chance to hear any of the new cuts from Mayday?
Absolutely.
Excellent.
It's always a bit of a curly one because people kind of come along to those gigs. Like, look, to be perfectly frank, it's a bit of a blessing that I'm not headlining the show.
Yeah.
Because then there's not as big an expectation of what I'm carrying in the set,
Yeah.
That's pretty much how I've operated. And I was just thinking about this morning, but it's pretty much how I've operated ever since part of the collectors have retired, which obviously is quite a while ago now. But,
Yeah.
Look, I kind of imagine, that if I'd sort of gone solo and then just launched myself into a career of just playing old songs like from go to woe, and I could have done that.
Yeah.
Going back like 15 years ago, but I might have ended up higher on the bill, but but I just didn't do it. I mean, I continued to make new records, and I used the framework of the touring schedule that kind of gives those songs exposure, So, you've got to walk that line, of course. So there will be, I don't know how long I'm on stage for, like 40 minutes or something.
Yeah.
But, there'll be 2 or 3, maybe more, well-known songs.
Yeah.
People will know. And then a whole lot of stuff that I've written in the last few years, I mean, I also play material going back, a decade,
Yeah.
And I've made, quite a few solo records now, so it just depends on the show, really, like where I am on the bill. I mean, there's so many things that go into it, But look, I don't have a problem playing old songs. It's just, where I put them in the set list, and and people are respectful.
Yeah.
And mostly it goes pretty well.
So we'll definitely get to hear Football Train then, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And I've got a few questions I want to ask you about the album. Can you tell me a little bit more about the inspiration for Football Train?
Well, I actually had that lyric just sitting around for quite a long time, and I had a lot of the lyrics on this because I hadn't made an album, I hadn't put a solo album out for about 2.5 years. So I had time to sort of build words up, and I wasn't really sure what the record was going to be about, And I kind of think when you're making you're putting a bunch of original songs together, there's always this sort of process of gleaning sort of ideas and themes just based on observation, and gradually it starts to dawn on you, okay, well, there is a theme emerging here, And essentially the record is about home and my relationship to home, where I live, the fact that I travel a lot. And then I just started casting and how that affects you emotionally, like where you feel safe, And once I started to realise that's kind of what I was investigating, I cast my gaze around me, and you just pick up on what's being said, what you're seeing, characters moving through the landscape, And Footy Train was a lyric I had, and I didn't really, but could easily not have made the record because I just couldn't find music that felt right,
Yeah.
And of course, that's a big part of the battle, but we used to, when the kids were still living at home, there was this whole, we're down where I am, we're sort of about 15 k's south of the last railway line on the peninsula. And like, if you want to go into town and get into the city, if you're a kid, you kind of got to get the train. And this train goes for like, it's like an hour journey up the coast. And Frankston Station, which is the railhead, you know, it's like a rough as guts. Like midweek, there's a lot of kids hanging around down there who just don't have jobs there. A lot of them are homeless. There's a city mission nearby. It's a pretty sad place most of the time. But then on Saturday mornings, when everyone gets in there to go to the football, it just turns into this blaze of colour, and people don't want to drive to the footy.
Of course.
And they run all these stations, run all these trains every like 20 minutes. First time I discovered that coming down here, like having moved from inner city, it really affected me. And I was like, God, there's a whole sort of phenomenon of suburban culture that I'd sort of lost touch with, you know, for decades, you know. And there's this one kid who looked really rough and sad and lonely, and he's got Richmond colours on, and he's getting his bag searched in a mud store. And I just started imagining what his condition was.
Yeah.
What is he dealing with? Because I know, you know, in the midweek you'd go down there, and it's a whole different atmosphere, you know.
Yeah.
And it really affected me. It was a very, but I wanted to make the song really proud and heroic, you know, and that was where the music came in. You know, I had to try and find it and convey that feeling, you know. So anyway, that was the first single.
Yeah, I really like the song. I actually, when I listened to the album in full yesterday, I went home and told my wife, you know, we sort of discussed the day, and I said that I'd listened to it, and she asked me what it sounded like, and I said it sounded Australian, and then it sort of, we talked about the Australian sound for a while, and I suppose what I want to ask you is, do you think there is an Australian sound?
That's a good question. Look, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I just think that Australians recognise stories. Look, from where I'm coming from as a songwriter, I've really focused on stories that are current on this record.
Yeah.
I've really gone out of my way to document yarns and events that have been translated to me by other people. So, that's what sets this record apart. It's all about Australian storytelling, and they're all character-driven songs. So you're inside the mind's eye of the person whose condition you're trying to describe.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm really trying to share my view of the Australian experience with other Australians, you know, and I just think that's very timely. I think we're at a point in our history where I think that's becoming very important.
And is that the inspiration behind the line, like, I can be your brother, I can be your son out of Asylum, is like a story that you're trying to tell from someone's point of view, yeah?
Well, look, you know, my view about the perception Australians have of refugees in the modern political narrative we've got at the moment is really misguided. And it's been hijacked by, well, dare I say it, it's been hijacked by the Liberal Party and the Labor Party that's followed it behind them.
Yeah.
And it's really misleading. It's really misleading. I mean, we've got people who arrive by boat with unauthorised arrivals being parked on these islands in the Pacific. And then you've got way more, thousands and thousands more, who arrive by aeroplane who are inside Australia.
Yeah.
And nobody kind of clocks that.
Yeah.
You know, so for some reason, the idea that people who turn up on the horizon on a boat, who are trying to reach a place of safety, are regarded with fear and negativity and have all sorts of things that accusations levelled at them by Australians who are just reading headlines in their newspapers, you know, like, oh, they throw their children overboard, or they're potential terrorists, or they're this or that, and it's just completely overblown. Because every one of those people has a story to tell. They're people like you and me.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to cut through the noise. I don't for a moment think that I've got an explanation. I'm not a politician. I'm not in government. I'm not suggesting that I have an answer to the problem of people drowning or stopping people smuggling asylum seekers. But I do think it's worth making the effort to try and turn the head of the consciousness of normal Australians about who refugees are, and stop accusing them of being the enemies of our nation. It's really ridiculous and inhumane and it's sad. And that alone is worth trying to address.
And do you think music, not just your music now, but music in general, still has? Do you think it can still change people?
Look,
or get them thinking about it, maybe?
I think it can get people thinking. I mean, I definitely look. I've accompanied. It can be a form of advocacy, so it can generate dialogue. Now, whether people's views are entrenched is another question. But and their moral compass or really fundamental things about how they were brought up and what their parents were saying at home. But, the way kids develop their values. You can't address that. I mean, musicians aren't in the business of doing that.
Yeah.
But you can illustrate the point of view. You can share your feelings and try to illuminate emotional truth.
Yeah.
So a dude who gets on a boat, pays someone, brings his family, and heads out across the water because he's actually him and his cohort are running from danger. That's a real thing.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. It happens in the world. So there is a point to that story that it's called empathy.
Yeah.
Whether it gets again, but in short answer, I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah, geez, I live in hope, Mark. I live in hope. I want to finish up by saying, I want to say a few things and then I want to ask you a question about it. I really like the guitar sounds on this album, and beyond the guitar sounds, though, I really think what makes it for me is the other instrumentation around it. For instance, Cameron's keyboard lines, I assume that he played them on the FIFO or FIFO, however you pronounce it, song.
Yeah.
They really added something for me to that song, and
that's really interesting. Because they're not on all the albums; they're just certain records, certain songs.
Yeah, and
when we use them, like they're in the mix. But
I wanted to ask you.
Guitar playing is really he's become this. He loves performing, and over the years, I've only worked with Cam for 13, 14 years now.
Yeah, right.
But I say to him now, look, you just love it. And he's becoming more and more of a showman. His attitude on stage he's really come out of his shell. So, and that's reflected. I mean, so much of this record is based on live.
Yeah.
We've put the best, the takes, with 2 or 3 at the most. Very, very simple approach to recording, and because the guys all have been doing it for so long, they're all seasoned players. We just, I come in with the frame of the song, and they just hit it, and then change it, go, stop, ditch that bit. Decisions are made very, very quickly. So there's a lot of spontaneous energy, and the mantra is don't think about it. And he's really thrived in that environment because he's like a full forward, kick it to me.
I love it.
And when he gets it, he's really excited. So he's just buying guitars, basically.
Too funny. Oh, well, look, I could go on and on and on about the album and ask you a bunch of questions, but I will let you go. We're looking forward to the show.
I appreciate it.
We're really looking forward to it. November 1st. We can't wait to see you. Take it easy, Mark. Thanks for your time.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Newcastle Live.